All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf and Beis, Maseches Subas. Start the new parak.
Okay.
Anaya parak, Anaya Mishnah. Nara. So in the bottom of Ben Aleph and Beis, right? I apologize for not reminding people to bring the new outspoken. Anyways,
We should have been more on it.
Nara. I assume you prepare a knife. All right, Nara Shanitza.
In a way.
And away we go. A Nara, a girl of the age between the age of 12 and 12 and a half, that she was seduced. So we said there's certain payments that get paid to her. Baishta, Gama, the Kanasa. So those are the three ones that go to her. The embarrassment, her depreciation in value, and her fine, the flat fee. Those all go to the father. The payment is to the father when she's between the age of 12 and 12 and a half. Batsar. And if in a case of violation, she was violated.
Yesterday, we talked about the fact that Nara said, she said, I don't care if that's what I want, pay me the money. But she doesn't get the money anyways. Father, see, the father gets the money. She's a Nara. Remember yesterday?
Right. So we said yesterday in terms of, right, but we said in the end, right, ultimately, we said someone's embarrassed, therefore, so that was okay.
That's in the beginning of this.
Yeah, so okay, yeah. All right. So anyways, over here, so it goes to the father. So that was a classic case, and if it was a case of a rape, a violation, and Tusa, right? He grabs her, he violates her. Then there's pain, right? And then that also goes to the father. Now, let's get into the cases. If they start the case, they go to court before the father dies. So that was the case we just said. Mesav, if the father dies, right? Then if the father dies, so then the payment goes to the sons, because basically the verdict, right, was right. The father was alive, and therefore, his sons would go ahead and inherit it. However, lo yispeak l'am b'din ad shemesav. So let's say they didn't able to go to din until the father died. So she goes, harei hein shel atzma. They belong to her. So even though she might be between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half, so the sons don't take the position that future court cases would go to them. Let's do another scenario. So what else could happen? They don't go to court until after she's she's almost 13 years old, after she's no longer now. Harei hein shel av. They still belong to the father. Mesav, the father died. Even in this case, right? Since you're supposed to go to the father, then harei hein shel av, and he bequeaths it to the brothers. Now, lo yispeak l'am b'din ad shebagra. If they did not able to go ahead and have the court case until after she already grew older, right? Harei hein shel atzma. It goes to her.
It's the exact same case off of case before,
So far. Rabbi Shimon, right?
It's still the same offer.
Right. Now, however, Rabbi Shimon Omer, im lo yispiko legavos ad shemei sa'av. So there was a Gemara din. They rule that the money goes to the father. The father dies. Harei hein shel atzma. Says Rabbi Shimon, the verdict is not good enough. It has to be given over to the father in order for it to go down to the sons. But if it was just a ruling, and then the father dies, the ruling does not go to the sons as an inheritance. Rather, it goes to the daughter. So that's Rabbi Shimon's point. Rabbi Shimon argues it goes to her. If the father dies, only if the money was not received yet.
As long as she's coherent. That was a description was only our second case, not the first case, right?
Even in the first case, I believe. Even in the first case. As we'll soon see that the way that the din is learned out. Just look at Rashi didn't say it. However, however, let's say her wages or her findings, right? Even if she didn't go ahead and collect it before for whatever reason, Mesav and the father dies, Harei hein shalach. But this is different. Then those goes to the brothers. In other words, since they were due to the father, the receivables are supposed to be given to the father, and the father died. Even if it was after, right? Even though she never collected, it goes to the father. Fine. Because they would have, yeah. Yeah, right. So only right. So let's see. So first the Gemara starts up on my kamashmalan. What is our Mishnah teaching us? Tanina, we already learned about Fata Nice and Shlish the Barmal is the Arba. In the case of seduction, there are 3 payments. In the case of violating, there are 4. In a case of seduction, 1 pays for the embarrassment, the depreciation, and the flat fee, the penalty. And also addition to that, in the case of rape, he also pays for the pain. So the answer is that the father gets it. That's the chiddush of Mishnah. So the Vietnamese pshita.
How do we know?
No. No. Yeah. Right.
So it's all because she's little, kind of like.
Right. Statutory. I mean, I was going to tell you already in terms of, is, I mean, the way our law works, right? If even if a girl, a minor, is a willing participant, that's still considered rape, right? Right. She's right. She doesn't have dots, right? So that's similar. So now, so Gemara answers no. So the Gemara says for the Vietnamese cheetah, the fata, right? By the fact that in case of seduction, that there is a payment. So let's see, sort of a little bit on your point earlier, Alan, right? Iliatzma, if the money goes to her, knows the chiddush is that the money goes to the father, not to the girl. So we said, okay, so let's look. In the case of seduction, so what? The money goes to her. Iliatzma, my yai, right? Why should he give? The father medata, right? She did it on her own stuff. She's, she could just say, oh yeah, I know, quick way to make a buck, right? I'll go ahead and I'll get seduced, right? And then I'll get the money, right? So under the din. No, we need the case of when they go to court, right? Under the din, right? So I'm doing this way. So and the Gemara and plugsa. So the Gemara says plugsa the Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan, right? In other words, the case of when they go to court, and then right, and to learn machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. So that was the what we learned from our Mishnah is about this machlokes. Rabbi Shimon says that the money does not go to the sons that the father dies; rather, she gets it. And the Rabbanan say it's inherited over. That's like a part of the his property. Now, Tanan Hassam, we learn over there. Anasas upidisas as beat. A person accuses somebody else of you violated or you seduced my daughter. Uomer nasty lapdisi. No chas shalom. Right? I didn't violate her. I didn't seduce her. So the father says, "Mashviach ani, swear to me." Amar amen. He says, okay, I swear. And afterwards he admits. Now, we have halacha that a person makes a shvua that he doesn't owe someone money, right? Or that he doesn't have something of someone else in his possession, and he lied, right? So he has to go ahead, in addition to paying it, he has to also go ahead and tack on a chaymesh, a fifth, and also he has to bring an asham, right? Asham gazela, right? Because he tried to steal it, so that's one of the 5 ashams.
He didn't have to.
No.
Because you go down on the street, or you can go down the door, take a shvua.
No. Oh, you said why was he forced to?
He didn't have to take a shvua. He said, "Okay, I'll do it."
Right. No, right. So I forgot the case. You have to see it in Baba Kama, right? Which case or in Baba Sia, right? When you make a shvua, right? But he agreed. He was swear to me. Okay. It turns out it was a good thing he made him swear because the guy was stuck a line. Right, he had proof.
Why was he stupid enough to say, okay?
So Rabbi Shimon Pater. Rabbi Shimon says Pater she'enu mishalim knas al piyas. Because over there, if he would have admitted, yes, I violated your daughter, right? Yeah. So that is an admission. An admission, right, is not something that you don't pay a knas for. So he would have been Pater anyways. So therefore, that which he lied about the knas, and then he finally admitted it, he wasn't really lying about something he had to pay. Amrullah. So the Rabban said back to Rabbi Shimon. So Api Shimon Mishalim Knas, Api Asma, Ivam Mishalim Bashis Began, Api Asma. Okay, fine, but the kanas, but what about the bushes begat, right? There were still those payments, those, add up to a few $100. And since the guy made a shua that he didn't owe these compensatory payments, and then he admitted it, so l'chora that he should be obligated to go ahead and pay and bring the yashin. So So Abai has a question from Rabbi. Guy said, you violated or you seduced my daughter, and I took you to court, and you were found guilty, and you were supposed to pay me. And I was the bump with each other in another city, right? They lived in Chicago. All of a sudden, he bumps into him in the streets of Yerushalayim. He says, "Oh, you owe me money. We went to court from by my daughter, and they found you guilty." The Nishba. But then he says, no, never happened. And we're talking about this, and I was never obligated to pay you money. The Nishba, and he swears the Haida, and then later on he admits, okay, I was lying. You just, you caught me off guard, so I initially lied and made a shvua, but I was really lying. The Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, what is the halacha in this case? Why? Now, until now, Rabbi Shimon says, because it was a knas, if he admits by a knas, that's not considered to be denial of money, because the money is something which is compensatory, but not a knas. But over here, since there was a verdict, so does a verdict of paying 50 shkalim, by the fact that there's a verdict, and now basically turns into from a knas into mammon. Okay? So and therefore, since he denied mammon that he owed the guy, and then he later did for to be chayav, since now, even though he went to din and there was a verdict, nevertheless the verdict was on a kanas, and therefore it's still considered a kanas, and therefore a kanas doesn't qualify to go ahead and bring an usher. Okay, so and Pashit. So Rabbi answered that it's considered once there's a verdict, the verdict changes it from a kanas into mammon, and therefore he'd be chayav shvua. So Eisvei Rabbi Shimon Kasha Amer Yachol HaOmer. Rabbi Shimon says Yachol HaOmer Lechaber Lanas B'Dizes Biti. V'Omer Lanas B'Dizi. A person says, "Hey, you violated or you seduced my daughter," and he says, "Nope, never happened. I didn't violate or seduce her." Or Hamish as Abdi, or and that results in a knas, right? That results in a 50 sham knas. Or he says to him, "You're sure killed my Hamish as Abdi, my slave, and therefore you owe me 30." He says, "No, never happened." Or he told them, or one's own servant says, "Hey, you knocked out my tooth, you blinded me, I didn't blind you." The Nishba, in all these cases, he swears, he denies about the knas. And then later on, he admits, okay, you're right, I lied. You might think it's chayiv. Therefore we learn from the pasuk, the kichesh, right? So this is the pasuk of denying, right? If you just look on the side, this is the art scroll, right? So the pasuk just says, I'm just going to read the pasuk, the entire pasuk. It says, "Nevesh ki zechata umola mal," right? Somebody who sins, he does right. So he like stole. He took from the person. He did mal, right? Ba'Hashem, right? He took something unused from Hashem. But kichesh ba'mito, and he denies, right, to his fellow man, vikadam, whether it's an object he was watching, or it was a loan, or begazel, or sold item, or it was payments, or the next pasuk says, or he found one of his lost objects and he didn't return it. He lied about it. The nishbal hashek, and he lied. So it's all these cases. So all these cases are together. That if he lied, if he denied owing this guy the money. So says the Gemara, right? But because right, he lied about about watching the collateral of some ziyad or a loan of a guest or a stolen object or he's holding his wages or matzah or his lost object. He found it, but he didn't return it. He was kept in his house. The kichesh ba, right? He lied. The nishba al sheker, and he swore falsely. So what's the common denominator of these? Ma elam yuchadim shein mammon. All these cases are mammon, right? None of these cases are knas. They're all, you have my object, you're holding on to it, you found it, your wages, it was just money. He owes him $100, and he lies and says, I don't have it. And then he admits, so he's chayiv there, right? So to every case which is mammon, so this would exclude a knas, something which is a penalty. That was in our case. In other words, so basically the pasuk says that by knas, right, you don't go ahead and make a shvua. So my lab is this case not to top of the page, right? Is this case not even talking about when he took him to court, and even then he wouldn't be chayav shvua? So Gemara says no. No, we're talking about a case where he never went to court. Therefore, it's regular mammon. It's not knas. So it's not a question. But the reisha, which we're about to see, is talking about a case where there already was a verdict on the money that was owed. So Sefer Nami. So this case also should be a case. But Sefer Nami when he goes to din. The Tani says over there, a reisha says right? I only know things that we're talking about where he has to go ahead and pay the exact amount. Is a loan or an object he was watching, right? As a Karen, as a Karen. What about cases of fines, right? Such as we have to pay double, or you got to pay 4 or 5 times the amount, or a case of rape or seduction, or a case of spreading false rumors about one's daughter. Minayin. So how do you know in those cases if he denies Riba, the extra words of mal include that even if one denies about paying that, he would be chayiv to go ahead and bring this asham. So it's the same case. Now this possible the double asham makes all cases mammon and knas the same. And what's the case? If there was no verdict, so kfeila miika, right? How could their person have to pay someone double? If he would have admitted, says, yeah, I stole the object, there was Gneva, he wouldn't be chayiv kefil, he would only have to buy the single amount, only the basic amount of double. Ella, rather it's obvious, this case of the ratio, pshita b'shama b'din. It must be this case was he was found guilty, right, of stealing or of shechting and selling, with the ratio b'shama b'din, or the case of seduction, with the ratio b'shama b'din, by the fact that this case referring to where there is a verdict, Sefer Nami, the previous also there was a verdict. In those cases were only money cases, right? So he says to them, I can really answer you and say, yes, the Reish is talking about where there was a verdict, and the Sefer is talking about there was no verdict, and therefore you be pater for Kula Rabbi Shimon. All be according to Rabbi Shimon, who says that you be pater from paying for bringing the asham. However, however, it's sort of a forced answer, and I will not force that answer. Why? You can say to me, at least in Reisha, Rabbi Shimon Omer, at least in Sefer, the Rabbi Shimon. If that's the case, the Reisha should have said, Rabbi Shimon, or the Sefer should have said, these is all the words of Rabbi Shimon. Ella, rather, what must we say? Kula b'shama b'din. Both the Reisha and the Sefer are talking about b'shama b'din. So the Reisha, which was the later case we discussed, which was discussing a case of the Knas, right, of Kefel, of Rabbi Chamisha. So that was according to the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan say that even if it was a Knas and the person lied about the Knas, he's chayiv to go ahead and bring an asham. However, the Seifa, in the Seifa, which we said basically only cases of Mammon, that was Rabbi Shimon. Only that case says Rabbi Shimon that you bring, but not for cases of Knas. However, so Medina l'chalin korban, when it comes to a korban, the Rachmana Pachim Evakichesh, right? That over there, he says that there is no case of a kichesh. In other words, that the exclusion of the korban does not come from the fact that it's money by knas. That comes from the word from the kichesh. The kamina, and that which the drasha of Mammon Havi is that means to go to his sons. In other words, a fine doesn't go down to the sons, right? Doesn't get bequeathed down to the sons. So if the father was due a fine, that does not go down to the sons. And that which we say that these pater for making a shvua, that is learned out from the words of a kichesh. So Gemara says, Eisvei, Rabbi Shimon Omer. So let's look at our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, if he doesn't go ahead and collect it until the father dies, the girl keeps it. Wait, but so that's a mind. So if you want to say that once that there's a verdict, right, that that it's now turned into mammon, right, and therefore anything which is mammon goes down to the sons. So therefore, why does she get it? right? The father died, it should go to the sons. Sama Rava says, Rava, Hamilsa, Kashiba, Rav Yosef, Esim, Tartan Shana. This question was bothered for 22 years. It was an ironclad kasha. It was not able to answer Ad Yosef, Rav Yosef, the Reisha, Upirka. Until Rav Yosef became, I guess, the Rashiva, right, instead of Rabbah. And then he was able to answer Shani. So he says, no, Shani Hasav, it's different. This case is different from other cases of Kanas. The case of Mafata. Why? The pasuk says, "V'nasan ha'ish ha'sheichet ima li'avi ha'nar chamishim kesef." So it says, "V'nasan ha'ish," right? When he gives it, le'zichsa la'av el mishas nasina. The father only, it's only his money, his Kanas, right? Only when he receives the 50 shkalim. But right before that, if he dies, even if there was a Gemar Din, that would not go to the sons, that goes to her. So it's a special case. So now there's 3 categories. Till now we thought there was 2 categories. There was Mammon and Knas. Now there's actually 3 categories. There's Mammon, there's Knas, and then there's the case of Mafata, which is like a super Knas that has to be given to the father for him to own the money. And that which Rabbah says that was Mammon, right? Once it's due to the father, however, the Rish Labanov, that's only Bashar Kanasos. That's talking about the other types of Kanasos. So in another Kanas, if the father is due, someone steals something and the Beis Din finds the person to be Chayav Kefel, to pay double, that, and if the father dies, their money can go to the son. But if it's a case of violating the daughter, that will not go to the sons. That would rather go to her. It's Elamiyato, Gabi Evid, but the evidence says, Kesef, Shleishim, Shkalam, Yitei Ladoinov. It says they're also the lashon of yitain. So shouldn't that be to say that the money has to actually go to the father for if he dies, for him to go ahead and bequeath it down to his sons? So only go to the master ones of Sina. The answer is no. Yitain lechud v'nasan lechud. V'nasan is different than yitain. So therefore, v'nasan means he already received the money, not he shall pay. He already received it. So Davka, if he receives it, only then is it the rightful mammon of the father. See, Hachi, if that's the case, so your whole vert, right, is that the word Vikichesh means that that the Shavua does not, in case of a Kanas, because we learned of there, Rabbi Shimon says, because he says Tamalayma Vikichesh, right? That was the bottom of Mem Beis Amud Aleph, right? That was in the Seifa. So he said those cases are cases of Mammon. But in truth, right, we're not excluding from the word Vikichesh the reason why it doesn't go to the sons, right? It's because of Tamlar V'Nasan Midboile. It should be for the drasha of V'Nasan. So Rava Kiitze Vikichesh. Now, what does Vikichesh teach us? Kagon she'amda b'din ubagra umesa. They go to court, right, and then while she was already a Bulgaria, she was old age of 12 and a half. Umesa, and then she died. So the Hasam ki kares avia, when the father inherits her, mina dida kayaris, right? He's inheriting. In other words, the father gets it from her. See, hachi yatsu el shenkanas mamanu. So why are you excluding? If this is the case, in that case, excluding. Why does the drasha say ma el michav shen maman? Right? Avkol shen maman yatsu el kanas. Why does that say there are only cases of mammon, right, but not knas? But this is no longer a knas here, because over there she was amad b'din as a bogeris. Once there's a verdict, it turns into mammon. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak yatsu eloshi karan knas, and that doesn't mean that they are a knas. Really, it is mammon, but they started as a knas, and it was a knas that was to be paid out, and therefore, since it was paid out, it would be paid out. That's why it was excluded in the pasuk, because it's not the same as a collateral. So Abaye asks, right? So he says, Rabbi Shimon Paiter. So Rabbi Shimon says, Paiter, what is this case going on? So we say that in terms of one who, I guess, who denies that he violated, why is he Paiter? Because even if he would have admitted it, it's Mishalim al Piazza. We know in a case of Kanas, one cannot be Mishalim al Piazza. So therefore, by him lying and later admitting it, he wouldn't be chayiv at all. He wouldn't be chayiv at all. So Tabla Amabadin. The only reason he's not Amabadin, Amabadin, the Mishalim al Piazza. But if he would have gone to court, right, then he would be chayiv to pay. So why would we chayiv to pay? It's a korban shvuah. All right. So haba bedin the Mishalei Piazzo. Since right he's amad bedin, right? It's a korban shvuah not mechayev. Right? He should also be chayev in the case of korban. So now, since he didn't go to, he was not amad bedin, right? But if he did go to court, he would be mishalim, and therefore he should be chayav a korban even in this case. So why does he say that Ein mishalim has to be atzma? So my answer is Rabbi Shimon Divrayim the Rabbanan Kavarlu. He's signing the Rabbanan. The DD, according to me, Afagad Amma Bedin Rachman Pacha V'Kichesh. According to me, even though right, he's Amma Bedin V'Kichesh, right, and therefore you pater make a shmua. Baladidchu. How about according to you guys, idly mias, you should at least admit, hey, Amma Bedin. There, where they did not go to court, katava, and therefore, when the husband is saying, "Hey, you owe me money," so kanasa katava, he's trying to claim the money, and he's denying the knas, and he's trying to go ahead and deny the knas. And if you deny the knas, that's not considered to be mammon, and therefore, you should be putter from this case of bringing an asham. Umod b'knas putter, and one is mod b'knas is putter because it's not a case of mammon. So Rabbanan is good. My answer is no. For Rabbanan Sabri, Katava, Baishis Begam Katava. No, the reason why you're chayiv is because in addition to the kanas, the 50 shkalim, there's also the Baishis Begam. So what's this machlekes over here? The top of the page of Mem Gimel Alav. What's machlekes? So the Ma'ika Mifli. What's machlekes here? Some Rapapa, Rabbi Shimon Saver, Loi Shavik Inish, Midid the kites Katava, Midid Loi kites. Rabbi Shimon says the basis of the claim is that when the guy is asking for money, right? He's asking for he wants the 50 shkalim because that is a set amount that he knows he's going to get. So therefore, when he lies about that, denies that, that's a case of denying or lying about a knas and lying about a knas. You're not chayav for it, and that's why he says you're putter. Rabbanan said, why the Rabbanan say you're chayav? Kika shaviginish, right? When they're arguing, so they would be claiming something that if he would admit it, right, he wouldn't be putter. In other words, if a guy admits, yeah, I embarrassed and depreciated your daughter, then he'd be chayav to pay. He's not putter. So right, person wouldn't go ahead, right, and claim something that the guy can make an easily defense by saying, yes, I owe you a knas, right, versus something that I owe you, Boshus Pagam. So therefore, the main part of the claim is the Boshus Pagam, which is Mammon, and therefore denying Mammon, and then later lying about it, admitting it, would require a shua. So that becomes the gist of Machlekes, according to Rabbah, that in terms of what the nature of the claim is the nature of the claim something which is a knas, and therefore, which is Rabbi Shimon, and therefore you be patur from the shua, or is the main part of the claim the mammon, and therefore, since it's denying of mammon, therefore one would be chayav shua, and that be according to Rabban. All right, we'll stop here.
What kind of korban do you bring?
Asham Gesela
Doing
for lying under oath.